The government and Donald Trump certainly should not be telling a woman what to do with her body.
Each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government.
For about an hour and 45 minutes, former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris met on the debate stage in Philadelphia for the first time, shaking hands at the start, as you can see there, as Harris introduced herself to the former president.
And it was high stakes with plenty of back and forth, despite their mics being off when the other candidate was talking.
The candidates took on issues like the economy, border security, and keeping America strong on the national stage.
Joining us this morning to help break down last night's debate, Dr. Susan Roberts, professor at Davidson College. Dr. Roberts, first of all, thank you for joining us. Thank you for staying up late to watch the debate. We appreciate your time this morning. What started with what seemed like an awkward handshake, I appreciate the gesture between the two candidates. It started pretty strong. At the beginning, let's just take the first 10 minutes or so. What was your feeling going into the beginning of this debate?
Well, I think right off the bat, she had to address the economy. And she started with a response and characterizing it as an opportunity economy. And she didn't have a lot of details, but I think it was enough of a theme that she established, I want to talk about this head on. And then Donald Trump pretty much got right into taking her on, and then she responded in kind. I didn't watch any of the television coverage, so I don't know if anybody said this, but I wrote in my margins, and it may be too cutesy, that the debate was a BAIT. And on that regard, Harris won. She got him to get very defensive about most everything. So she led him and twisted him. And I think from the get-go, she was a little weak, but then she gained steam all the way through. I think Trump was very good at hiding his emotions and stoic in his body, but then he unraveled in terms of more expression.
Right, a big difference in terms of what Trump did against Biden there, not getting unraveled versus getting unraveled last night versus the vice president there. I do want to ask you, if you are an undecided voter and you're watching last night, who made the best case to those voters, because they're the ones who are going to decide it come November?
Well, I think Trump had to defend himself. It was kind of goaded into that, and she needed to define herself. I think she did just enough of that, but she didn't go on to give a lot of details. I'm of the mind that one doesn't use a debate to give a lot of details. People are not looking for that. I think I haven't seen the moments people will remember, but I think she did give some about sales tax and child tax credits, but she didn't go into a lot of detail, but maybe it was just enough detail. And she kept reiterating, I have a plan, I have a plan. And so if people were listening, they could say, well, she has a plan. But I think it was the difference in he was on the defense and she was trying to define herself with both body language and command of the stage.
Yeah, Dr. Roberts, I'm of the opposite mind. I watch them. I want to know details. Don't tell me you have a plan. Like, I want to know what the plan is. And so I got a little frustrated from both candidates with that last night. I also got frustrated because I felt like both became very good at dodging certain questions, even when asked repeatedly from some of the moderators. Matter of fact, we have both of these candidates falling into that category last night. Take a look.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan?
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now. But if we come up with something, I would only change it if we come up with something that's better and less expensive. And there are concepts and options we have to do that. And you'll be hearing about it in the not too distant future.
When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So I was raised as a middle-class kid. And I am actually the only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America. I believe in the ambition, the aspirations, the dreams of the American people. And that is why I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy.
All right, so there you go. I mean, definitely there's a way to spin in and out of your answers so that when you get to the end, you're like, wait a second, I don't think either one of them actually answered the question.
And what I was referring to is as a debate. If I were prepping both of them, or at least Harris, I would say it's better for you not to give too many details. People want details.
Sure.
And the undecided voter probably wanted details. But I think she was smart to veer away from too much detail in terms of making the impact, smart in terms of, quote unquote, winning the debate.
Dr. Roberts, obviously, Jason and I would talk with you about this at length if we could. We are running out of time. I do want to ask you, though, after that one debate, we don't know if any more will happen. If you're Harris, would you do another one? If you're Trump, would you push for another one?
I would just let it go. I wouldn't do another debate.
Just let the chips fall where they may. And
let it go on from here.
Yeah, maybe more messages can be carried out in campaigns between now and November. So, Dr. Susan Roberts, Davidson College, listen, we appreciate your time. We know we've got a lot to talk about for the next 53 or so days as we get closer. Thank you so much.
Thank you.